everyone, and welcome to Propway. As you already know, this video tutorial is going to be about Thor's hammer, aka Mjolnir, aka Jonathan. Just to give you a quick rundown, the head of this hammer is made completely out of EVA foam, and the handle is made out of a PVC pipe with some more EVA foam down here. I think this hammer came out very nice. I think it looks pretty good. It's very sturdy. And this tutorial will take you step by step to show you how I did each and every part of this. I also added this leather strap on the end, which is, as you can see, it's just a faux leather. But this leather strap is extremely sturdy and you can hang it by it. Can I spin it? I can actually spin it. I don't know if I should be doing that. I would not recommend doing that at home because you do risk the chance of breaking it, but I did use contact cement, which made this extremely durable. Before I get on with the tutorial, for all you new viewers, I would love if you would hit that subscribe button. And for all of you, hit that little bell button to turn on your notifications so you know when I post my next video. And also, make sure you guys watch the entire tutorial. I did a little random contest where I picked a random commenter from my last video and I gave them a little shout out in this tutorial. So make sure you watch that. So without further ado, let's get on with the tutorial. Now the first thing that I do is I sketch out a rectangle on a piece of scrap foam. And you can definitely use cardboard here instead of foam. If you are using foam, I would recommend at least a 6mm thick foam to make it nice and sturdy. So here I'm just cutting out that rectangle with an X-Acto knife. And you're going to want to have 4 identical pieces of this rectangle. And now I am drawing 4 more strips which will be used for the edges of the hammer. And when you cut out these strips, you want to make sure you are cutting at an angle just like this. And this is what it should look like. And now you should have 8 total pieces here, 4 small strips and 4 big rectangles. And now I'm going to use contact cement. And now I'm just going to apply contact cement on the long edges of each piece. And once you wait a few minutes for the contact cement to become a little dry, you want to put the pieces together like this. And now you can put together all the pieces that you have, and you should have a main structure that looks like this. And you'll notice that this structure is a little flimsy, so we're going to add some supports into the middle of this piece that looks like this. This is just another piece of 6mm foam that I cut out, and that will get hot glued into the middle of that structure. And this will give the hammer a lot more strength and will let it hold its shape. Now I'm just sketching out this small corner piece here, and again I'm going to cut this out with my knife on an angle. And you're going to need 8 of these pieces, so I trace them out here. And this piece will get glued just like this. And you want to make sure that you glue this a little bit off of the edge by a couple millimeters. So after applying some contact cement, I'm going to stick it on just like this. And you're just going to stick this on to all 8 corners of the hammer. So you should have something that looks like this at this point. And we are just going to continue on by cutting out these pieces here. And again, you want to make sure you cut this with your knife at an angle. And this piece is going to sit in between those corner pieces like this. And again, here you can see that I'm setting it off the edge by a couple millimeters. And you will see why I'm doing this shortly. So I'm applying contact cement to the side edges and the long bottom edge. And after that dries for a bit, you can put it into place just like this. And once you have that one done, you can apply it to the rest of the edges. And now to cap off the ends, I'm going to cut out these square pieces here. And And as you can see, those little beveled edges will get glued to the corners just like this. Now I'm using contact cement again because it's strong, but you guys can definitely use hot glue or super glue. So one random thing that I like to do when I'm making my props is I like to write weird messages on the inside of these props before I close it shut. And it just feels like a little time capsule where this is forever shut and will forever hold that message. So instead of writing something weird that I would normally write, I'm going to pick one username that commented on my last video, and I'm going to write your name inside of this hammer. As weird as it is, you are going to forever be part of this hammer. So opening up my Taskmaster video, I'm just going to randomly scroll through the comments, not looking at all whose name I'm going to write, but this person's name right here. Oh shit. Not looking at all whose name I'm going to pick. This person's name right here. Congrats to Tyler Lynn. You will forever be part of this Thor hammer. Congratulations, Tyler. You are now a part of Thor's hammer. At least my Thor hammer. That sounds very wrong. Good job. So now I'm just gluing the other cap into place. And once you're done, it should look like this. So here I'm cutting out a trim piece for those 8 edge faces. And I cut this out of 2mm foam because this is going to sit inside of that little pocket just like this. And this is why we offset those pieces earlier. So initially I had used contact cement to put it in place, but that got a little messy because this piece is so small and thin. So instead I applied super glue to the edges and I just rested the piece in place. And once you do it on all 8 edges, it should look something like this. And now for some detailing, there are these nice patterns on the edge of the hammer. And a simple way of doing this is to use a hot glue gun to draw out the pattern, and that'll give you a nice raised texture. And I just pretty much scribbled a very random pattern for this. So for the main handle, I'm using a 1-inch PVC pipe. And here I'm just tracing out the circle and I'm cutting it out on both sides of the hammer. And the reason you want to cut it out on both sides is that when you stick it through like this, you want it to stick through on the opposite end, and that's going to give it a lot of strength for you to swing it around because it will be supported on 2 ends. So then you just want to glue this in place. Here I'm using hot glue. And I also glued it at the base of the head as well. And now for the circle on the top of the hammer, I just traced it out with a roll of duct tape. And I cut it out of another sheet of foam. And here I'm just applying some contact cement and gluing it to the top of the hammer. And the base of the head also has this little ring. So I'm just using a strip of foam to wrap around the base like this. Here I'm just sketching out a detail on the side of the hammer, and I'm using an X-Acto knife to score it. And after you put a heat gun to it, that little score line should open up and give you a nice detail. Now the top of the hammer has some text on it with some Asgardian lettering. So here I'm just sketching it out and then scoring it with an X-Acto knife. The bottom of the hammer has this design to it, so I used a scrap piece of foam to wrap around it, and I capped it with a circle. Now here I sketched out the spacing for the rings of the hammer. I messed up the spacing with the red lines, so the black lines is what I will be following. And here I'm just sketching out the shape of that ring, and I'm going to cut out 9 pieces in total. Then I added some contact cement to the tips of those cutouts. And all I do here is wrap it around the handle and then put the 2 tips together, and the contact cement should hold it in place. What's nice about this is that nothing is glued in permanently yet, and I still have the freedom to move the rings around if it's not perfectly lined up. Once I'm happy with where they are, I add some white school glue to hold it in place, and I let that dry. Once that's dried, I just use some Mod Podge around the entire hammer, and this will seal the foam and also give me a nice surface to add some spray paint to. And here I am adding some more design to the handle with some hot glue. And this is what your hammer should look like before you start painting. So now here I just paint the head and the handle piece with some silver spray paint. And once that's done, I will be adding some brown acrylic paint. And I just brush on this acrylic paint. And after a couple of layers of this brown acrylic paint, you should have a nice solid color just like this. Now the rings on the handle should be a silver color, so I just use a silver Sharpie to color in those rings. Now, as we all know, the bottom of the hammer does have a leather strap, which Thor uses to kind of swing the hammer around. So I am cutting some slits into that bottom cap. And to get the leather strap through, I opened up that slit just a little bit. And here I'm adding a strip of duct tape to the edge of the leather strap. And this allows me to thread it through that slit very easily. And once you have it pulled through, you can remove that piece of duct tape. And now I will be using some contact cement to glue that strap together. And once that's dried off, you can pull that strap so that that seam is inside of the cap. And now you should have a nice strong strap. Now, to add some weathering to the hammer and to make it look a little more like metal, I took some very watered down black acrylic paint and I brushed it on just like this. And once that's on there, you can take a paper towel and just scrub it off, and it'll leave the black paint into the small crevices, and it should give you a nice realistic look to the hammer. And once you do that to the entire hammer, the final product should look like this. Thank you guys so much for watching that tutorial. Assuming you didn't, just fast forward to the end. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys try building a Mjolnir for yourself. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I have so much more content coming for you guys. And one last thing, if you follow me on my Instagram page, you know that I like to do little contests where I ask you guys to guess what I'm building. And a lot of you guessed correctly, so here's all the people that guessed that I was building Mjolnir. Can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.